If you've been struggling with mysterious symptoms, whether they're physical or mental, for example, like anxiety, depression, headaches, migraines, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, you get random vertigo, you get random balance issues, you have dysautonomia, or you have mysterious heart issues like heart palpitations, or you get like a racing heart, IBS, autoimmune, any other weird, random, medically unexplained symptoms that maybe you've gone to doctors for and they don't have an answer for you, and you don't know why, I potentially have an answer for you today. I'm creating this video because I actually help people achieve freedom and live the best version of their lives. Most of my channel has been about starting an online business and making money online. That's like what I do. I'm an online business veteran. I have several passive income streams and just that's what I do. But I've actually gone through a crazy health journey myself where I actually got poisoned for 2 years with heavy metals. And, if I had gone to doctors during that time, doctors would have given me a different diagnosis, every single doctor. They probably would have diagnosed me with Parkinson's, MS, lupus, autoimmune, just because of all of the random symptoms that I was having. This only literally happened like a year or two ago. What actually happened was that I started getting random symptoms. I started getting sick. I was living a great life. I didn't know what was going on. I started getting random, fast heartbeats and random anxiety episodes, which was totally unlike me. I've never had that before. And I started to get seriously concerned, like what was happening. And it got so bad that I basically became like bedridden. I couldn't do anything. And my life was constant hell. It was a nightmare. And what ended up happening was that I found out that I actually had gotten poisoned by my housekeeper for 2 years. With heavy metals, with arsenic, with thallium, and with essentially rat poison, probably something from the auto parts store, and with pesticides. And it's just honestly cruel. It's a miracle that I'm even alive today. A year ago, I was completely bedridden, and I went through just this amazing recovery. And through that, I learned the truth about, what I was going through. And I also learned that so many of these symptoms, so many people that are having symptoms nowadays, and there seems to be more and more that are having random symptoms that are unexplained, they actually have a similar problem as well, that they're actually facing toxicity of some sort. What I realized myself through my own journey, and I know that what happened to me is very rare. I know that, it doesn't really happen to people. It sounds crazy. What I learned was that even though I was intentionally poisoned, a lot of people, they suffer from symptoms because they actually have a kind of poisoning going on in their body as well. And, I'll talk about that as well. It can be heavy metals. It can be chronic infections, all of these random symptoms that, if you get and you're getting concerned, that can be an answer for you. Today, I'm actually 27 years old. I had gotten poisoned and I was getting sick. I had my illness from when I was about 23 to, I would say 27, maybe 24 to 27, really getting bad at about the 26 age, 26 years old. And what happened was that the reason that I'm alive today is because I actually found a doctor that has helped tons of people with chronic illness. He kind of became like my health mentor because I had so many appointments with him because I had so many issues. Primarily the poisoning issue, but unfortunately how things work in life is that either you're going up in life or you're going down. And so, as I was getting sicker and sicker with the additional poisons in my body, I started to attract infections and I started to attract, things like parasites and just very scary things that really we're not taught about in society. And so I'm here to share that with you. And I'm here to share with you how you can also figure out the root cause of your random symptoms that you're getting and, how you can stop worrying and start taking action and start taking control so that you can regain that level of freedom that you want in your life. Because we all know that without health, there is no freedom. Even if you have all the money in the world, even if you go and you start a successful business or you make a lot of money with your job, if you don't have your health and you're having random symptoms every single day, you still are a slave because you cannot live the highest version of yourself on this planet. And before actually getting into sharing my experience with you and what I've learned, I need to start this video off with a disclaimer. It's a legal disclaimer. I have to because I'm not a doctor, so I'm not actually able to give medical advice. So anything that I say or do in this video or in any of my social media content on my YouTube and on my Instagram and anywhere else you see my face is not to be interpreted as medical advice. Do not take it as medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I'm simply somebody who wants to help people achieve freedom, gain better health, and just I believe that a fundamental aspect of freedom is feeling good every day, feeling fantastic. And so that's why I recommend contacting your local licensed healthcare professional for licensed medical advice. Anything that I say or do in this video or in any of my videos or content online, any of my websites, anything that you see that has to do with me is simply my experience, it's my story, and the things that have just helped me along my journey. So before I actually get into the root causes of these symptoms, I want to share a powerful paradigm that will really, make life better for you and will give you a lot of hope. I know that it will give you a lot of hope. So before I actually get into the things that I've learned in my journey and things that potentially, could help you as you look into them more in your own journey, with your symptoms that you're facing, I want to start off by sharing a powerful worldview that really helped me get through the darkest period of my life, like just absolute hell. And that is that no matter how bad things are, there's always a way out. Right now, I actually looked up a statistic that 1 in 4 people suffer from medically unexplained symptoms. And I personally believe that the reality is much higher than that, because the vast majority of people, they have symptoms that they don't really acknowledge, they ignore, they brush under the table, and they don't really report them, right? So probably 1 in 4 people, those are people that actually go to their doctor and report that they're having weird symptoms. And, what I found is that conventional medicine is fantastic at correcting actual physical problems like breaking a bone, or if you tear a muscle, or if you have something that is very physiological and it's like an acute thing. Conventional medicine is fantastic at that, and the technological advances that have been made in surgeries and things like that have just been amazing. But unfortunately, where conventional medicine has been found to really, I guess, lack in a lot of ways is chronic illness and chronic symptoms. That's why so many people get very common diagnoses that, for example, and I'm going to list them here: CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome; dysautonomia, so that's like dysregulation of your nervous system, getting like balance issues and vertigo and things like that; POTS, that's post-orthostatic tachycardial syndrome; anxiety, depression, OCD. A lot of people get diagnosed with autoimmune, and they're told that their body's immune system is attacking itself, and that's it, and that they just basically have flare-ups throughout their life. And they don't really, usually what they do is they recommend them conventional drugs, and those definitely obviously work, and they have their way, and their place in time for sure. I can't deny that they've helped a lot of people. I'm not against conventional medicine whatsoever. I just want to clarify that. I just want to offer, my story and like the things that I've learned, and that, because truthfully for me, what I found is that conventional medicine in my whole serious illness didn't really help me whatsoever. And I was led into a lot of dead ends before I actually found the doctor that, he just had a lot more knowledge on certain things like toxicology and the root causes of chronic illnesses. And that's why I am alive today, because I would have been dead, and I'm not exaggerating. I actually made a YouTube video on this that you can watch after this video, called My Story, How I Got Poisoned, Survived and Recovered. And it's on my channel. It's quite long, but you can go and listen to my story. Maybe it'll help you and inspire you. So what I found is that the vast majority of these so-called diagnoses that people are given, like especially chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, OCD, what I found is that, when they say there's an unknown cause, I've found in my experience that cause is usually toxicity. Okay, so what is toxicity? It's when your body is polluted with either a chronic infection or chemicals or heavy metals, right? We live in a world where there's just tons of toxins all around. It's in our food, it's in the environment. If you work an industrial job where you're exposed to certain chemicals and toxins, you get those things as well. Well, unfortunately, even though conventional, let's say, medicine says that, your body is fantastic at processing toxins and everything leaves your body, really quickly, I haven't found that to be the case, because, why was I still sick and getting enormous symptoms even 3 months, 6 months after after I knew that I got poisoned and I got out of that environment, And so what I learned is that these toxins, especially heavy metals like mercury, like arsenic, like lead, these are just some examples, they stay in your body forever unless you actually detox them, because the amount of time it takes for your body to process these very toxic chemicals and these very toxic things is just so long. It's just so long. How the body works is that there is a slow pool of toxins and a long pool of toxins. So basically, let's say that today you eat something very toxic. Let's say you eat tuna, which is full of mercury. And by the way, you can search up, the highest mercury-containing foods, and it's tuna, swordfish, and some other fish. Unfortunately, fish is just loaded with mercury. That's why I avoid fish, unless it's like salmon. That tends to have a lower amount of mercury. Mercury is actually the most toxic substance known to man, and mercury is the most common thing that most people have that causes symptoms that's really hard to diagnose unless you actually do tests, and even those tests are very inaccurate, and I'll explain why. When you actually ingest something with a poison or a toxin, and it's completely unintentional or it's intentional, right? So let's say you're just at a sushi restaurant and you eat some sushi and there's tuna and there's mercury. That mercury goes into your body and it starts going through your organs. And what happens is your body detects it and it starts to activate its detox defenses. So it starts to detox it. The body is just a divinely created, perfect organism and it knows how to detox things. However, it needs help, especially with things like mercury. So what happens is if you eat tuna like right now, it would start being detoxed by your liver, okay? And then it would go through your kidneys. But the problem is that if it's enough mercury, it will overload your organs for your body to like detox that in time. So it'll detox what it can, but then the rest it'll actually store in your fat cells and in your tissues. And what happens is with repeated exposures over time, let's say if you've eaten a lot of seafood in your life like mercury, or if you've had dental fillings that have mercury in them, a lot of dental fillings unfortunately have had mercury in them. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Like for example, in America and Europe, they're literally putting the most toxic chemical known to man into your mouth and it stays there. What happens is the mercury is leaching into your tissues, and your body can't detox all of it because it's so toxic. So it'll store it in your other tissues. And what happens is let's say it'll take a part of that mercury and it stores it in your liver. Okay, fine. Your liver is fine. All right. That's not your brain. But then you keep eating sushi. You keep getting that mercury. Your liver gets filled up with mercury. Your kidneys get filled up with mercury. Your stomach and your gut gets coated in mercury. Eventually, it crosses your blood-brain barrier, goes into your brain. And once it goes into your brain, you start getting random anxiety episodes, panic attacks. You start feeling depressed, like there's no point to life anymore. That is literally, as an example, mercury sickness. And not just mercury causes that. Many toxins cause that. And different toxins have different levels of influence in your body. Like arsenic is slightly different. Arsenic causes more cardiovascular symptoms. Thallium is much more neurological, so that'll cause like muscle twitches and things like that. That's also a very big poison. It's one of the things I was actually poisoned with, unfortunately. It's pretty cruel. It's actually been banned in the United States since 1975, but people can get anything these days, and they're gonna, it's a really stupid way to live life because you're gonna get caught. But that's on a side note. The point is that our body was not created to handle massive amounts of toxins, especially toxins like mercury. And then what happens is that you have, remember I said the slow pool and the fast pool. So the mercury that your body can detox, like within a day or 2 days or 3 days, it'll process through your liver, it'll go through your kidneys, and then you pee or poop it out. And that's the fast pool of detox, okay? But then you have the rest of it. If you eat enough, it's stored in your tissues, and if you're constantly exposed to it every single day, to that toxin, your organs and your tissues start literally filling up with this toxin, and that gets put into the slow pool of detox. So what happens is that your tissues get filled up with it, you start getting symptoms, and then over time, let's say that, you've eaten mercury, or like you've eaten mercury-contaminated tuna, and all tuna is, for years, and then you suddenly decide to stop today. Well, what happens is that for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, your body is going to be releasing minuscule amounts of mercury so that, it's just enough that your liver and your kidneys can process it and, like pee or poop it out without you basically dying because, with the amount of toxins that I had and that a lot of people have, if your body were to release all of it right away, you would have multiple organ failure. Instantly, you would die. That's how it works. The body, this is just more proof that the body is a God-given, God-created creation. It is perfect, and that there's no such thing as, just random symptoms that have no explanation. Something that you should know, something that I've learned as well, is that if the body is having symptoms, the body is such an intelligent creation that literally it will signal to you when something is wrong. And if it's having a symptom, it means that there is a provocative agent causing that symptom. And the two provocative agents, which are both toxicity, we talked about heavy metals and chemicals, right? And there's pesticides and there's so many more, right? They all go through that slow and fast pool as we talked about. The second element of toxicity is chronic infections. I'll give you an example. The herpes virus, HSV1. So that's essentially cold sores, and I think the statistic, don't quote me on this, I'm not a doctor like I said, but I think the statistic is 50 to 60% of people in America and in Canada, just as an example, they have the HSV1 cold sore virus. If you ever had a cold sore, then that means that you have the HSV1 virus, and it is conventional knowledge that you cannot eliminate the virus. The virus goes into a dormant mode. Let's say when the cold sore goes away, it goes into a dormant mode, and then the virus reawakens when you go through periods of stress, all right? Well, unfortunately, and it's interesting that they acknowledge that the HSV1 virus does that, but then, for all the other random symptoms and neurological diagnoses and mental illnesses, they don't talk about the fact that there's also like thousands of other different viruses and also bacteria that live inside our bodies. Our organisms contain tons of different strains of bacteria, tons of different strains of viruses that are either dormant or, awake at certain points. Or your immune system, if it's healthy, does a great job at containing everything, right? But as you get more toxic with, heavy metals and with chemicals, what happens is that your immune system is more focused on fighting that it has less like manpower and less power to actually just, keep everything else under control. So what happens is you can start getting things like Lyme disease. You can start getting things like, various different viruses that once you get, they're either awakened and they cause symptoms when they're awakened, or they go back to sleep. They're in a dormant mode. For example, Lyme disease, right? Lyme disease is typically known as a tick-borne illness. So if you get bit by a tick, or if you've ever been bitten by a tick, chances are you have Lyme disease. And what happens with Lyme is that the conventional treatment is basically they'll give you antibiotics until your symptoms calm down, and then they calm down. But unfortunately, for many people, that doesn't work, and they'll have symptoms for a very long time that come and go. Well, what's happening there, what I've learned, because I found out that I actually had Lyme as well, what happened with me is that I found out that I guess, I got bit or something a long time ago, and, it was living in my body, and it was causing many of the symptoms, on top of my poisoning too, because like the toxins and the viruses and infections, they cause like similar symptoms sometimes. Like they'll make you depressed, they'll make you anxious, just like random symptoms every day. It's pretty horrible. What I found is that, once I started taking specific things to control the Lyme, for example, my doctor put me on a course of Lyme antibiotics, like IV antibiotics every day for 3 weeks, I got way better really quick. And then after that, there were some natural things that I did, like some herbal tinctures and things like that I did that really, really helped. And what happened was that when I got the Lyme bacteria under control and put it into a dormant state in my body, all those symptoms went away. But there were times when, certain times when I'd get like, I would notice them resurfacing, and then my doctor would tell me, oh yeah, it's the Lyme, it's reawakening. I would go back on, just like some simple herbal tinctures and things. There's like specific supplements you can take, herbs, there's a lot of herbs that are antibacterial and things. The world is a divinely created place where, the creator has literally put an herb on the planet for every single problem and every single thing that can be going on in your body, right? And a lot of them have antibacterial, antiviral properties. And so my doctor told me, okay, you can get back on this. And then once I did, the Lyme went away. And so many of these diagnoses that I was talking about in this video here, including mental and physical symptoms, it literally could just be undiagnosed Lyme, or it could be like a chronic infection that you're having that is reawakening, and you don't even know. And then you go to a doctor and they're telling you that, oh, it's this, permanent condition that you have. We don't know why, and here's a drug for it, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong. They might be right. But consider this, potential other explanation. And of course, there's many tests to test for these things. There is a very good Lyme test by iGenix. You can ask your doctor for that if you're in America. There's many different blood tests you can take that measure for these things. But usually the problem is that a lot of doctors, they won't even go that far. They'll just kind of give you a diagnosis, and they'll say, hey, well, unfortunately, you're screwed up for life. And, good luck. And here's a drug. And let's hope that it doesn't kind of get worse. And unfortunately, how life works is that if you're going down, you're going down. If you're going up, you're going up, right? And there's a relationship between toxicity and chronic infections. What happens is, what I learned is that once I got my level of toxins in my body down, and that was not just the toxins that, I was intentionally poisoned with, but also all the toxins that I accumulated in my life over, before that, right? That I probably had symptoms with, that I didn't even notice that were kind of affecting me on a daily basis. You see, the vast majority of people, they don't really know what it's like to be completely clean and detoxed, because once you experience that, and I have, it's like heaven on earth. You just feel amazing. You feel like you have a perfect clear mind. You feel great. You're full of energy. You're never tired, except when it's time to go to bed, right? And so what I found is that as I got my level of toxins down, I also had to get my level of chronic infections down that I had accumulated over my life. And it's kind of like a push and pull, right? So you kind of get some toxins down, get the chronic infections down, keep going until, everything's under control. And what you're doing is you're strengthening your immune system to the point where you're naturally able to fend off really anything pretty easily, right? That's what I found in my journey. And it's, these ideas have really helped a lot of people that I personally know, that, doctors that I know that kind of think more than just what they've been taught, maybe back in school. They've literally saved like thousands of people's lives. So essentially, the body is a self-healing machine. When you reduce your toxins and you get the chronic infections under control, your body finally has room to breathe. You don't have the symptoms anymore. And then over time, your body heals. Like when you get a cut, it heals. Why is it different with anything else in your body? Right? It doesn't matter how old you are, it will heal. It's the same thing with your body. It's a living, self-repairing, self-regulating organism. But then when there's external factors coming in, problems begin, your body causes symptoms, the symptoms are telling you there's a problem and you have to figure it out. I personally know 2 people that have gone to like over 90 doctors, and they both ended up having the same diagnosis that ended up curing them. They both were mercury poisoned. They had horrific depression, anxiety, near liver failure, panic attacks constantly, bipolar disorder, autoimmune. I mean, they were literally labeled with everything. Doctors were saying, we're not going to work with you because, you guys are a liability you're a liability to my practice. Like, they were literally told that basically their only alternative was to just die at a certain point. They weren't saying that they're not allowed to, but like, that's essentially what they were saying, right? Because they didn't know what to do with them, right? Because that's just conventional medical knowledge, right? And so, these people, once they actually found out what was happening with them, they started detoxing the mercury and the heavy metals, and they worked with a professional who knew, how to do that properly, because there's a lot to it. You can't just start doing it. Like, you have to actually know the ins and outs of it and get guided. They did that, and literally over a period of like a year and a half, all of their symptoms got completely cured, and they were literally on the brink of death. And that's exactly what happened to me, okay? Once I actually dealt with all the toxins and all the chronic infections, I'm here now. I'm working, I'm loving life, and it's just how it is. So now, how do you actually detox, right? Like, maybe you're wondering, hey, Dan, like, send me your doctor and things, and I'll put some resources down below. So the way to detox is, there's 2 different categories. There's like natural supplements, and there's actual detox agents and drugs. So there's 2 categories of things you can use to detox. There's natural supplements, and that's things like spirulina, chlorella, like natural algae that you can consume that will kind of absorb the toxins in your body. And then there are actual detox agents that are more like pharmaceutical drugs, IVs you can do. So obviously for those, you really need a doctor that knows what they're doing, because you can't do that alone. That would be things like IV EDTA. There's other specific, drugs that are like EDTA that are metal chelators, right? And, what those will do is they'll detox you from metals. So you really have to find somebody that knows what they're doing with this. But those are the 2 categories. And I want to also mention that, like, a very important indicator that you're toxic is if your symptoms come in waves. So if you have like days where you're just like good and you're in a good mood or whatever, and like, a lot of days you're in a bad mood or whatever, like the symptoms just come and go, whether they're psychiatric, mental, or physical, that's a good sign that you're toxic. Because what happens is whenever the toxins hit your bloodstream, if your body's releasing them from that slow pool of toxins, they're running in your bloodstream. And when they're in your bloodstream, getting actively detoxed by your organs, that's when they're causing those symptoms, right? So that's what causes the waves. The body doesn't just randomly have waves of symptoms. You're meant to feel perfect, okay? So the key to successful detox is to combine professional knowledge, the detox agents under supervision, with the natural supplements. And if you're somebody who wants to get started right now, maybe you don't have the money to actually do it professionally, you don't need to go. I mean, you can go and there's like testing for it. You can go and do a hair test. It'll measure the heavy metals. Basically they take like a strand of your hair, and then, you send it in to a lab and they'll tell you. But like, even when I was super toxic, I wasn't even scoring that high on the hair test. And even on my urine test, you can do like a provoked metal chelation urine test, where you take like a pill, and then that starts chelating metals, which starts absorbing the metals, and then you pee them out. Even that wasn't like, yes, I had the metals, but it wasn't that high. And by the way, if you have any amount of like some of these toxic metals like mercury, any amount is bad. They have reference ranges on these tests, but the truth is that you want to have none of them. Okay. So there's no acceptable level, because like mercury, you're not supposed to be consuming that. Arsenic, you're not supposed to be consuming that. And so the truth is that the reason why these tests are not so accurate is because sometimes your body's so sick, it doesn't even detox things properly, and things just get stuck forever until your body literally just refuses. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to deal with this until you get me better to a certain extent. And then I can start to detox it, right? And how that works is through your pee, through your poop, through your hair, like any potential means that it has. Your nails, right? That's why people get like sometimes white nails. They're called Mies lines, and that's like arsenic poisoning, for example. That's if they're horizontal. Of course, the white dots can also be like zinc deficiency as well. But essentially, you want to be combining both. If you're starting brand new, I wouldn't do the tests. There really is no point. I mean, you can go and do a hair test. I'll link a good one down below if you want. But you can actually just start consuming a combination of cilantro and chlorella, okay? And there's not a lot of information out there online, but I did this and it worked really well for me. So basically what you do is you either eat cilantro, or you can buy a cilantro herbal tincture. I'll link a few good ones down there. You take that and then you wait like 30 minutes. And usually what you feel is, if you're toxic, you'll start feeling really bad. And that's not from the cilantro, it's from the cilantro chelating metal. Cilantro has a natural metal chelation ability and toxin chelating ability. What you do after 30 minutes is you either consume chlorella or spirulina. They come in caps or in powder. And the reason for that is that you take the cilantro, it starts mobilizing the metals, wait 30 minutes, and then you take the binder, which is chlorella or spirulina, just as examples. There's other ones as well, like there's zeolite and there's like activated charcoal as well. And so when you take that, the symptoms calm down. Now, if you're really sick, you have to be really careful. Don't just take cilantro because it can make you just have horrific symptoms because it's like moving all the stuff, right? But if you do that once and you get like worse, that's a sign that you're toxic, okay? Just remember that. I was really toxic. I did it and I was fine. Obviously, I'm not recommending you to do this. Everything is your choice. This is not medical advice, just something that I found that worked for me. But that is the most basic thing. And I've learned that if you do that, my doctor told me, and he's like a really big name in the whole toxicology thing, in the whole toxicology category, and, curing chronic illnesses by lowering toxicity. If you combine cilantro with chlorella for a period of like 6 months to a year, even 2 years, you basically get everything out, all the bad metals out of your body. So just doing that is a start. Of course, there's a lot more supplements to it, and healing the body requires a multifaceted approach. But the key is always going low and slow. And, adding things on gently. Natural supplements saved my life. And especially knowing the right things to take. There's a lot of information on this online, a lot of great YouTube videos, and even just on Google and on TikTok and on Instagram, right? Just make sure that whoever you're watching, they know what they're talking about and they seem credible. You want to add things on gently. Don't just start doing 10 supplements at once. Add things one at a time, especially if you're more sensitive. So just start one thing, start with a low dose, build it up, right? Because everybody's different. You can be sensitive to something that somebody is not. What actually happens is when you lower your toxicity level, you actually become less sensitive. The reason why you're sensitive is because just your body's immune system, it gets it goes haywire. And it doesn't really process everything in the right way. You also want to source high quality supplements if you're going to use supplements. A lot of these supplement companies, they are not tested whatsoever, even though they claim they're tested. For example, in America, the supplement industry is completely unregulated. Literally, I can go and create a supplement brand, never have it tested, and put whatever I want in a cap and label it as something. Of course, you can't be harming people knowingly, but a lot of them are actually contaminated with toxins themselves. So I'm going to list a list of good supplement brands that have saved my life and that really helped me. And these are the good ones that do regular testing and they're really high quality. They do cost a little more money, but you want to make sure you're not repoisoning yourself when you're actually trying to heal yourself, right? I also want to mention the inaccuracy of blood tests. Blood tests actually are very inaccurate. When I was a literal zombie, when I was super poisoned, I did blood tests. They were all coming back fine. And I was like, well, why am I sick? Well, it's because, the metals are not really even floating in your blood. Like I said, there's that slow and long pool. And so when they're in your tissues, they're not in your blood. So they're not obviously going to appear in your blood. And there's no test to this day that can measure how many metals or toxins are in your tissues. There's no way of doing that unless you basically cut a portion of your tissue and submit it. And you can't do that, obviously without harming yourself. Don't do that. Okay. My point is it's not possible whatsoever. Okay. So blood tests are not a good indicator of toxicity at all. And I just want to mention to you that, I hope that this really opened up your eyes and gave you faith, no matter how long you've been struggling for. I know people that have literally gone to 90 doctors, 92 doctors, have been through hell and back completely healed, no matter how sick you are, whether it's with cancer, whether it's with, multiple sclerosis, whether it's with any of these diseases that they've labeled you with, or autoimmune or lupus or any of this, or anxiety or depression, even if you're on drugs, there's always a way. The body is a self-healing miracle machine. And I would say this is where a belief in a higher power comes into play. For me, what really saved me was my belief in God, and in really in just the fact that I had I was never alone in my journey, and it always gave me faith, and it always gave me this promise that I could heal and that I could have a great life to look forward to, and that I did, but that I had to trust in Him. And so for you, if you don't believe in God, or you call the entity that you believe in something else, that's fine, whether it's source, whether it's the universe. Having faith is super important in this journey, because if you don't have faith, it's very hard to make it out, because you feel very alone, and you feel that you're just a victim to basically your meat tissue that we live in, right? And that's simply not the case. Just know that no matter where you are never alone, and that everything you've gone through is for a reason, and that once you get through this and you figure this out and you heal yourself, just know that you have a beautiful, happy, euphoric life of freedom that awaits you. Once you have your health, you can travel, you can make as much money as you want. Making money is easy when you're healthy. My doctor, my health mentor told me that your income and your wealth is a direct one-to-one ratio. Essentially, it's directly proportional to your health. So just remember that, and remember that detox is something that really, really helps. It's helped me a lot, and, potentially can help you. In fact, I'm sure. And no matter what, just know that you are never alone, and that you were created perfectly, and you will be perfect. But, sometimes life throws challenges at you, and that's why the strongest people have the strongest missions and have the best lives. Just remember that in every single amazing movie, the superhero struggles through a huge challenge, and they have to get through that challenge. Or else, if there was no challenge, the person wouldn't be a superhero. So just remember that. Be the superhero of your own life, and know that no matter what you're facing, that you can get better. Get started with things I recommend in this video. I'll put some resources down below. If you want me to make more health videos sharing what I've learned, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm super happy to be making this and sharing my experience because I believe it can help a lot of people. Even though I'm not a doctor, I'm somebody who lived through hell and back. And, quite frankly, I've learned a lot. So thank you so much. I hope that you really get better. Stay well, be happy, be free. Thank you.